We are so happy that you're here and joining us. We're going to be talking about the NHF program NYLI, which stands for the National Youth Leadership Institute. So thank you for joining us. My name is Marley Wetton. I am the NHF manager who is on staff to manage this program, and I'm very excited to introduce you to 3 different NYLI members who will be also a part of this presentation. So we have Riley Schneider joining us, as well as Nikki Fernandez and Kenny Thatch, and they will be joining in throughout the session, so keep an eye out for that. So as we were creating this session for all of you, we really just wanted to bring to the forefront the most important things about NYLI. And so this is why we're here. This is why NYLI exists. This is why it's the incredible program that it is. This is why you've probably heard of it, and this is why we're so excited to share it with you. So we'll cover these 4 points throughout the presentation, as well as go into a little bit more detail as to the actual different pieces of the program. So first, we'll talk about the future leaders of the bleeding disorders community, which is what NYLI is created to do as a program, is to create the future leaders of the bleeding disorders community. And next, it also provides hope to new families and teens. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. NYLI members support and learn from each other as a part of this community, and the program also aims to prepare young people to enter the professional world successfully. So we'll be talking about these 4 points as we go along. So first, I wanted to talk about how NYLI are the future leaders of the community, but actually this leadership role starts once you become a member, and this is a really great example of how NYLI members in the past have really impacted NHF's mission and honestly changed the direction of NHF. So this example is a few years old. But if you may remember, March used to be Hemophilia Awareness Month. That might even sound weird now because it's been Bleeding Disorders Awareness Month for so many years now, but it used to be Hemophilia Awareness Month, and there were several NYLI members who had a bleeding disorder other than hemophilia, and they brought that idea to NHF to say, hey, you know, NHF says that it serves all bleeding disorders. So if we're going to have a whole entire month to bring awareness to bleeding disorders, then it really should just be about all bleeding disorders instead of just hemophilia. So these NYLI members started a social media campaign to bring this idea to NHF, and NHF actually ended up changing its tagline to "for all bleeding disorders" as a result of that. And there's been a huge chain reaction in response to that. And you can even see that in this conference. We have an entire track for those folks with BWD. We have a track for women. We have all of these different things. But it all started with NYLI. Another way that NYLI makes a difference is that within this program, diversity is really valued a lot. And I mean that in all ways of diversity. So it's really important that the future leaders of this bleeding disorders community are representative of the community that they serve. So that means that NYLI has 10 bleeding disorders represented within this group of people that you see in this photo. There's regional diversity, so we try and make sure that we pull from all regions of the United States, that it's not just everyone on the East Coast or everyone on the West Coast. We try and have a good spread across the country. We even have about 15 languages represented within this group, which is pretty cool. And that's possible because of all of the racial and ethnic diversity that's a part of this program and really quite central to it. We even have several first-generation members, which is pretty awesome. It's brought a really cool culture to the program. So we have Riley here for this next slide. to talk a little bit more about what it means that NYLI members have VIP access.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Riley Schneider. I am a third year NYLI, and I want to talk to you a little bit about what VIP access means. So when you join NYLI, you kind of get treated a little differently. You are seen more in the public eye by those people in the community and even outside of it. We are seen as leaders, and our words bring more of a value to the community. Through NYLI, we've been able to bring new ideas back to our chapters, and we are trusted with more responsibilities at our own chapters. For an example, I think it's 2 years ago now, I did an internship at my local hemophilia chapter, Gateway Hemophilia Association. And through that, I was leading like the youth golf program, and I was also able to really improve the relationships that I had with the chapter that go past NYLI as well. And I started a young adults committee while I was there, and I now have the potential to even join the board of directors. So through NYLI, we are given opportunities like this, given professional skills, and we are really seen as the new group to come through and give more opportunities for the upcoming years for our chapters and for everyone all around the country with bleeding disorders. And it's a really special thing that we're getting to do, and I absolutely love it.
Thank you, Riley. So we have a quote here from an NYLI alumni member saying, "I think as an NYLI member, I have impacted the bleeding disorders community by providing hope for families who are new to the community and are scared for their children's future. They see us being active in the community, being role models, and living totally normal lives, as this reassures these families that their children and family members won't be limited by their bleeding disorder." So this is another goal of this program. And in addition to the NYLI members being leaders within the community, we also just make sure that they're quite visible. You know, we send them out to different chapter events across the country, obviously when those events are in person. But now NYLI members, you may see them virtually at your chapter events. And this is really just to provide an example to maybe those brand new parents to the community. Their child just got diagnosed and they may be a little bit worried about that child's future. And so when they see these NYLI members who are, you know, in college, starting their careers, being really successful, displaying these awesome skill sets, then it really brings a lot of hope to those new families. And Kenny, I believe you had some thoughts on this as well.
Hi there, everyone. My name is Kenny Thatch. I'm from Bethel, Connecticut. My home chapter is the New England Hemophilia Association. What I have to say about this is it's been amazing to go out to different chapters and really see different walks of life. And as Marley mentioned, families get to see, you know, us as young adults in the community who do have a bleeding disorder, and we are thriving in whichever way, you know, we're living. And I've had multiple family members of, you know, different families come up to me and kind of ask, kind of like, how did I get through it? And being able to give my 2 cents for that, and again, be kind of role models for their children, really, you know, solidifies why I love doing what I do. So I really get to make that impact on people.
Awesome. Thanks, Kenny. And another thing is that NYLI has a really fantastic, it's sort of a community within a community. It's really a support network, and the NYLI members know it best, so I'll pass it back to you, Kenny.
The NYLI vibe, oh my gosh, this is a completely different experience in meeting all these different people from all different walks of life, and you're all there for the same purpose, and this is to become leaders in the bleeding disorders community. And being able to talk to these people, it's a whole different mindset. And when I see everyone in NYLI every year, I feel right at home. And when you meet them for the first time, you don't have to explain what a bleeding disorder is, or you don't have to explain what your bleeding disorder is. And they just already know, and that's just such a relieving feeling coming from a background where you have to explain that all the time. And within this, this group of people, you make friends who you can actually talk about things about your bleeding disorder that most people would not really understand. The struggles you really have to go through, how it makes you feel, and they're able to relate with you, and that just, builds a deeper connection. And coming from all walks of life, since this is a professional program, there is really no judgment. The program's really free of judgment. Everyone is really accepting of, other people's ideals, and very open to, conflicting ideas, and able to really talk that out. And one thing I really enjoyed too is when let's say I see Riley and we're having a conversation, and we're having a really good conversation, then it gets interrupted by something. And then we never really get the chance to finish that connection or that talk. The next time I see Riley months from now, we pick up exactly where we left off. And we remember small details about each other and kind of bring that up again. And it just really shows that everyone cares.
Great. Thank you, Kenny. And that brings us to our last bullet point, that we really try and prepare these young adults with all of the skills that they need to not only be successful leaders in the bleeding disorders community, but to be successful in their own personal lives and to have really successful careers. So Nikki will talk about this in a little bit more detail later in the presentation, but for now I really just wanted to highlight that in all of the sort of activities and program requirements that are a part of this program, we have created them with the idea in mind of teaching translatable skills. So for example, like in the nonprofit track, we teach those folks how to write a grant. And in learning how to write a grant, that means that they're learning those good writing skills, those good communication skills, and even if they, first of all, they'll be able to write a grant for their chapter, which is pretty cool. But then they'll be able to use those same skills probably in their career in another way. So that brings us to our 5 competencies. So these are the 5 things within the NYLI program that we try and make sure that all NYLI members are competent in these 5 areas by the time that they graduate. And the activities that are a part of the program are created with these goals in mind. So we'll go into these in a little bit more detail, but for now they are communication, self-management, leading group facilitation, career skills, and emotional intelligence.
So to talk a little bit about the communication, so as Marley had said, I'm actually part of that nonprofit track, and so I got to learn a little bit about that grant writing, which has really improved my overall writing skills. We also get to learn how to publicly speak and facilitate different sessions and really just learn how to speak in a public eye. We do a lot of storytelling, and a lot of these skills, well, every bit of these skills are translatable both in the NYLI world, in the bleeding disorders community, and back home in the rest of our lives. Something that I wanted to speak on was that, if you've got a job and you don't get along with all of your coworkers, it's bound to happen at one point or another. NYLI has really taught me how to properly diffuse situations without putting others down. So through the skills that I've learned, I've been able to apply these in different jobs and during my internship, and was able to stand my ground without bulldozing others and really just end in a good place with those around me.
All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Nikki Fernandez. I'm a 3rd year NYLI, and I'm going to talk about career skills and how that translates to, outside of NYLI and whatnot. So we do learn a lot of things. We give workshops, but we also attend a lot of them. And a lot of those workshops they're all based around how to improve ourselves, and career skills is a big part of that of, as you see, is like job preparation, resume writing, interview skills, networking, building relationships, that type of stuff. So I have a story to tell. Is when I was in my second year, I think, I attended the job preparation, resume writing, and interview skills workshop, and I was not as prepared as I thought I was. I had my resume ready, and I thought my interview skills were going to knock it out of the park, and I realized my resume was not very good at all, and my interview skills were lacking. After that workshop, they really like help you in establishing the ability to talk about yourself, how to talk, why you're a good fit for that job, and just how to prove to yourself almost on why you're worth it. And I took these skills and I went and I did a job interview like a week after, and no joke, within that week, they called me and were like, you were so professional and everything you presented to us was so ready on the spot that we would like to offer you a management position. Of course I took it, but it was one of those things that I wasn't even shooting for that goal. But because of the skills I learned taking the workshops within NYLI, I was given the ability and the door open for me to establish myself as someone who could do something like that. And with like the different parts to this, you learn everything from public speaking to how to present yourself, how to talk about who I am and why I'm good at what I'm going to do. Elevator speeches on how to give quick conversations. And networking is a really important part of this because you really open doors for yourselves you did not realize you had the ability to open because of talking to people, ways to introduce yourself and get like almost what you want out of a conversation without it being so blatant. And then lastly is building relationships. You really meet a lot of people within this program, a lot of people who you would not meet outside this program. So people who are, big wigs in certain areas, and you really, you learn their names, they learn your names, you get cards, you can email them back, they email you back, and you're like, whoa, why are you talking to me? But because of this program, you really do build relationships with people that are like insanely superior to what you think you could get. And for that, it opens doors. You get the ability to, apply for jobs. You can get the ability to ask questions and get mentorships in areas that you don't expect. So when it comes to career skills, NYLI is really great at preparing you for things you don't expect or you don't even realize you're not prepared for. Self-management. All right. So within NYLI, you learn a lot of different skills, and self-management is one of those big ones that you don't realize you're really going to learn until it hits you. It's small things like time management and organization skills. When you first show up, they're trusting you to be, adults. It's surprising to join a program and then trust you to be an adult, even though, you're a young adult program. They give you a schedule of what's going to happen. They tell you, here, this is what you need to wear, this is what you got to do, and we trust you're going to do it. You do what you got to do, and you show up and you're ready to go. Even though they're not holding your hand, walking you through everything, you really learn how to become like self-improvement at that point. Preparation, you have to be ready to know what you're going to wear when you go to like Washington days or things like that. You have to be prepared on what is acceptable in certain meetings. Problem solving and analytical thinking. You spend a lot of time trying to figure out how am I going to attend this meeting and this meeting within the same time? Or, I did not sleep very well. I probably should, drink some caffeine in the morning, or maybe I should go to bed early instead of going and having a good night or something like that. You learn a lot of these small self-management skills that you can translate to the real world. Like I had mentioned that I had just recently gotten a really cool job. Because of self-management skills, I'm able to then now look at something and be like, okay, I can delegate work for people. I can look at, I need this done in this amount of time, but I have to make sure I help these people. So my time management skills, my organization skills are very vastly improved because of NYLI's workshops and their skills they provide you to become something better than what you were when you first started.
Awesome. Thank you, Nikki. So I wanted to talk just a little bit about emotional intelligence. This is a little bit of a new thing, so if you've never heard of it, that's okay. Sometimes it is shortened to EQ, for the E stands for emotional, sort of like IQ. But as soon as I learned about emotional intelligence and how your level of emotional intelligence, there are tests out there that you can take similar to an IQ test, and the higher your emotional intelligence score, it directly correlates many studies show with the salary that you make. And the exciting thing about emotional intelligence, and one of the ways that it's different from IQ, is that it's something that you can continue to learn and grow, and as you work on it, your score will get higher and higher. And once I learned about this, I was like, wow, this is something that we have to add into the NYLI program. What a cool impact this could make. So this is something where we have created specific activities to help the NYLI members grow their emotional intelligence throughout the time in the program. And this focuses on the ability to have self-awareness, to understand what's going on inside of you, and then also to have social awareness, to be able to understand what's going on inside of other people and be able to pivot or change your actions as a result of being able to realize that. And that goes along with social skills. Empathy plays a large role in being able to do that. Emotional intelligence has to do with your ability to motivate yourself. So that's something that we talk about. And then also unconscious bias and cultural sensitivity is also something that we really talk about a lot within NYLI. As I mentioned, this program is very culturally diverse. So everyone is always welcome to share their life experiences, welcome to share their culture with all of the other members, and that's really well received by everybody. And we also have a diversity training each year, which allows us to grow our skills in this area. And it's something that everyone in the room gets something out of that training every year. So that's something I was really excited to share with you all.
All right. So meeting and group facilitation. So this is one of those things that you do part of NYLI is you take a workshop and you learn about how to do group facilitations and kind of lead in that aspect. You know, there's a lot of things that go into group facilitation or just facilitating in general. It's a lot more complicated than you think, but also not as hard. It's a lot of just reading your audience is like a big part of it, and knowing how to go about creating a discussion with them and keeping them engaged. Some things I learned within that is something simple as the way I stand, the way I show myself in front of people is, you know, it helps if you move around a bit. I learned that instead of standing like a board in front of everybody and telling them what you want them to hear versus walking around, you know, making eye contact with other people, maybe say something to them, just not like pulling them to say something, but just mentioning to them to keep them engaged. You know, I've used this in my real world. Again, being in my new job and whatnot, I am in charge of people. I have to keep everybody on task and, you know, make sure everybody knows what's going on. So we do daily meetings in the morning. And one of the tasks I have is making sure everybody knows what their job is for the day, what the goals are, you know, any problems that might happen or arise that we need to be aware of and how we can handle them. So because of my group facilitation training, it's not like I'm sitting there in front of them and I tell them what to do and then I expect them to go do it. It's a thing where we look at each other, I tell them what's going on, I open it up for discussion so they can give me feedback on the day because, you know, as good of a leader as I can be, I'm only as good as my employees will let me be. So I have like the saying of I don't talk at them, I talk with them. So it's really good at making sure that they get their point across along as me. And I think the group facilitation training is so superb when it comes to real life use because of that reason alone.
Thank you, Nikki. And those are also, just for all of you listening, another really great list of examples of how to use emotional intelligence. And Kenny had another story he wanted to share along those same lines.
Going back to emotional intelligence, I was able to really take that into my professional life. So what I do for work is that I'm a personal trainer at my local gym. And with that, I get to, you know, really interact with people from all walks of life, varying ages. I have some clients who are as young as 19 years old and some as old as in their 50s and 60s. And they all have different, you know, experiences, different ways to interact, different ways to really take in energy. And just going to like the first point, self-awareness, I need to be kind of aware of the energy I'm putting out because some people really, you know, like that high energy person, but some people kind of want someone who's kind of more, relaxed, kind of chill. And being able to really, get to know them. And I don't see my clients as just clients and as just numbers. I see them as actual people. They all have their own lives, and regardless of what they have going on in their lives, they know they can come in, they can see me, and I'm not going to be biased towards whatever, they have going on. I'm just there to really be their support system, and really, it's really up to them what they want to share with me. And a lot of the times they share some very, personal things that, should I really be hearing this as your trainer? But being able to kind of understand what they're going through and really sympathize, empathize, and then even still in all of that, still motivate them to be, better in the gym, because that's my job. So that's kind of what I wanted to say on that.
Awesome. Thank you, Kenny.
You're welcome.
So as a part of NYLI, we get together a few times throughout the year in person, but it's really important we try and keep that community feel going throughout the entire year, and that engagement happens primarily online. So we have Facebook monthly challenges each month. We have a Facebook group, which is slowly turning into a Discord group, but where we talk about the things that we're learning. There's a theme for each month. One of the themes coming up is make sure that you have your resume updated, and maybe a review of those interview skills. So we do that together each year to make sure that we're ready for those upcoming challenges in our real life. Another one of those online challenges is to reach out to your chapter and actually interview them about all of the events that they have coming up this year, and then also find 2 opportunities where you can volunteer with your chapter this year. We have some emotional intelligence challenges that we do together, and we share what we learned so that we can all grow and learn together. And then we also use that Facebook page to just provide updates to each other as well. It's really nice to be able to connect together virtually since we see each other so few times during the year, and then especially now when we're all living in a virtual world these days. It's really nice to be able to get together virtually. So that brings us to the Bleeding Disorders Conference, which you're all here, so welcome. But when this Bleeding Disorder Conference happens in person, we actually fly all of the NYLI members. They live all across the country. We pay for them to attend the Bleeding Disorders Conference, and oftentimes we'll have some sort of mental health training while we're there together to make sure that we all know how to practice good mental health first aid and that we know how to take care of ourselves. They attend the educational sessions at the conferences, and like Nikki mentioned earlier, there are several networking opportunities throughout the conference as well, which is really exciting. And then in addition to flying the NYLI members to the Bleeding Disorders Conference, we also gather all together at Washington Days each year. And if you're not familiar with Washington Days, it's NHF's national advocacy event. So it's where people with bleeding disorders from all over the country, they all come to Washington DC at the same time, and we all go and talk to our legislators in the House and in the Senate on the same day about bleeding disorders. It's a really inspiring event, to be honest. And so as a part of this, we train the NYLI members in how to share their story with the legislators so they're ready for those meetings. We talk about professional development. That's oftentimes when we do the resume and interview training, along with that emotional intelligence training and that diversity training. The NYLI members will often stay a few days after the actual Washington Days event for training together just as a cohort. And then as a part of Washington Days, you also choose your track, which we'll talk about in a little bit more detail here. So there are 3 tracks within the NYLI program. You can sort of think about these as focus areas because usually, NYLI is all about giving back. Usually those who are in the program, they always talk about how they're so thankful for all of the things that their chapter has, all of the opportunities that their chapter has provided for them. Everyone in this community just receives so much. And oftentimes NYLI members want to join NYLI because it will give them an opportunity to give back. And so we created these 3 different tracks to give back sort of in the way that you want to. If you are interested in more of the outreach or education side of things, then you can choose the outreach track. If you're interested in more of the advocacy, public policy side of things, you can choose the advocacy track. Or if you're very interested in the different programs that your chapter puts on, maybe you want to become a rock star volunteer for your chapter and get in those behind the scenes types of places, then the nonprofit track is for you, and you will learn those skills there. So conveniently, we have all 3 tracks represented here with Nikki, Kenny, and Riley. So they will tell you more about their track from their own experience.
Hi again, everyone. I'm here to talk about the outreach track. Outreach track, absolutely love it. As Marley mentioned, we kind of take this opportunity to give back, not just to our community, like our specific chapter, but to chapters all around the country. And I've had the honor to fly out to different chapters throughout the country, such as Wisconsin, Denver. I've even been to Hawaii. So those are really cool places for that. And I've been really able to connect to the teens and the youth through these workshops. And one specific story with this is when I went to Denver, it was kind of hard to get that initial connection with the teens because, of course, I'm meeting for the first time. Who's this random person coming to talk to me about things? But by the end of it, we were all so connected. Every single kid was engaged. They were planning on actually going to a bowling trip later that evening, and they were asking me if I was going. So I'm really glad I was able to, make that connection again, network with people who I normally would never network before, and again, building that sense of community within their own chapter, but also, putting myself out there as well professionally. So really fun times.
Hey, so advocacy track. This is a track that's really based around advocating for you or someone else. So like for me, I advocate for my brothers because both of them have a bleeding disorder. I do not have one. So I really found advocacy a passion of mine. And, just like Washington Days, it's kind of like the same style of things where you really do develop and practice delivering your story. We work a lot with teens on helping them understand that, their story matters. Understanding public policy and insurance, that goes along with whenever you go to, either advocacy days for local chapters or Washington Days. You really get to learn what the ins and outs of the current bills and things like that are going on. Within advocacy things, for me, I've learned multiple things, like elevator talks. Again, I talked about that a little slightly earlier, but this is what it really is. It's like you run into an elevator with someone and it's a legislator and you realize you don't have a meeting with them, but you really wish you would have had a conversation with them. This is the time to get that point across. You have like maybe 2 to 5 floors max to get whatever you want to say out. So you introduce yourself, you give them the points that you want to get across, and you give them something to remember you by, whether it's something you say, maybe it's your story that's really moving. It's that kind of stuff. Advocacy, you don't have as much of a travel option, but it has been increased in the last 2 years for sure. So there's a lot more opportunities. And I got to do a session with some teenagers who didn't really know how to tell their story 100%. Like they knew the basics, but they didn't know. It was very, generic, this is my name, this is what I have, and that was it. Then they pass it off to an adult. But you don't realize teens and even kids are a huge impact on legislators. And so I got to run a workshop and would help them develop their story. We ran through it a couple of times. You did it in front of people, you did it with an adult, and then finally came the day where they got to go talk to a legislator. A couple of teams felt a little nervous, so they asked me to come with them to help give them pointers like that. So I was able to encourage them and coach them during their storytelling. But the great thing is because of what I learned in NYLI and what I could give back to these teenagers, they were able to tell their story flawlessly and add so much passion to it that you could see the legislator like understanding what was going on, remembering details. And so the crazy thing is the next year I got to meet with the kids again, and they actually like their names were remembered by the legislators. Like they remember their name, parts of their story. They were able to like finish their parts of their story for them because they remembered it impacted them so much. So advocacy is a really great track, and it's really fun for people who really do like to give back and want to make sure that their voice is heard and they help others people's voices be heard.
And last but not least is the nonprofit track, which I am a part of, and it has been amazing. I have had more opportunities with this nonprofit track than I think I would have ever been able to have otherwise. It's always been a dream of mine to help out chapters all across the U.S., and through the nonprofit track, through the trainings and events like the Chapter Leadership Seminar, I've been able to do it. I've been able to network with different chapter staff and executive directors from all across the country. I live smack dab in the middle of the U.S. So being able to go out and meet others from different chapters is not necessarily the easiest. And through this program, I've been able to. And now I've developed and just been building these relationships with different people over the years, and they know me by name. We text, we talk, they invite me to their stuff, vice versa. And it's not just the networking that's incredible. We're able to swap ideas and learn how to really help each other out, especially in such a changing world like right now. And something that's crazy that a lot of people don't really think about too much is that chapters do more than provide just camp for everyone. They do so many events throughout the year, and it's really important to understand how chapters budget for different events, how they're creating things, how they bring others in to help with programming. And in the nonprofit track, you get a little bit of that knowledge, and I was actually able to learn how to write grants, and I applied that and applied for a grant while I was doing my internship. And my internship ended before we figured out if we were able to get that grant or not, but at least I was able to learn the skills and be able to do that.
So Riley brings up a really great point on internships. And so in addition to these 3 different tracks, we also offer several internships each summer to NYLI members to intern at a chapter across the country. So some NYLI members intern with their own chapter. Sometimes they will intern at a chapter across the country, which is really exciting because every chapter is a little bit different. They do things differently. They have different traditions. They're different populations, etc. So those NYLI members, like Riley mentioned, have really gotten a lot out of those internship opportunities, and that's another thing we're really excited to offer as a part of this program. So I haven't seen too many questions in the chat. If you have any, now is the time to throw those up there, but I wanted to just talk to you a little bit about how you can apply. So due to the pandemic, unfortunately, NHF will not be admitting a new class of NYLI in 2020. Usually the application is available starting in September every year, and then it's due on Halloween every year. However, that in-person portion of the program is so vital to this program that we are holding off on accepting a new class this year, so that come 2022, actually, we'll accept those applications in 2021 for a 2022 class. And so we will look forward to receiving your applications next year. And with that in mind, the application criteria is you or your sibling must have a bleeding disorder, and you must reside within the U.S. You must be able to travel to any state within the U.S. However, you do not need to be a U.S. citizen. You only need to just be able to travel across the U.S. Since travel is quite a big deal within this program. And the ages that you can apply are between 18 and 22. So with that, I would love to see any questions that you have. Just looking to see if there's anything coming into the chat. Yasmin had a great question about is unconscious and implicit bias the same? That was a great question. So check out that link that I posted for more information. And it looks like we don't have any questions coming in, although I thank you to those of you who did post in the chat that you're here and listening. It's really nice to know that you're here and you're interested in NYLI. So if you have any more questions about the program, you can visit our website, hemophilia.org/NYLI, to learn more information. And if you'd like to contact me in the future, you can find my contact information there as well, and shoot me an email if you have another question that you can't think of right now. So with that, we'd like to thank you so much for joining us for this presentation. And of course, don't forget to fill out the evaluation. You will receive an email either tonight or tomorrow morning asking you to please fill out an evaluation for this session. And as a reminder, this evaluation data that we receive is very important. It's absolutely central to how we plan the conference for next year. So if you'd like to see more about NYLI at next year's conference, please be sure to fill out that evaluation and tell us what you would like to see. With that, Riley, Kenny, and Nikki, you guys want to say a quick closeout?
Thank you all for coming. Oh.
Go ahead, Kenny.
Oh, I was already halfway there. Thank you all for coming. It was so nice to speak to you. I'm grateful to be able to talk about my experience in NYLI, and I hope to see some of you guys in the program one day. Shout out.
Yeah.
Shout out, Niha.
Yeah, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. For reals, NYLI is honestly, we're just one giant family, and we connect and we talk every weekend. It's a great chance. So if you have any interest, please just apply. It never hurts to just try.
And to piggyback off of both of them, please apply. These are my best friends in the whole wide world, and I just love this group, not just for the professional stuff, but these lifelong relationships that I've made with them as well. And I hope to see you guys apply. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for your time, and we'll see you hopefully in person next year.